Delighted for our beautiful friend Adrian Lee to have connected us, Helen. Welcome to New Earth Podcast.
Thank
Helen
you,
Quail.
Sarah. Thank you. And thank you to Adrian. It's lovely to be here. There's just so many connections and synchronicities in the field right now. It's just gorgeous. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to see what unfolds. I know you want to speak about Bravehearts, and it certainly feels like we're all needing to be pretty brave right now because it's quite an interesting and intense time that we're moving through.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just, that's a one word that I'm just playing with lightly, partly because of my Celtic heritage as well. But it does speak to a truth of certainly my path and the path of many of us and the people that kind of resonate with what I bring forward, which is not a path for everyone, but really a path that takes incredible courage. And of course, the whole word courage, is coming from the French, and it's connected to the heart. And the path of the heart has been at the core for me, and the path is an evolutionary path. And I'm talking a bit about an evolutionary heart paradigm, sort of bringing them together. My work, and I can say more about it as we go on, is actually about cosmic evolution, like through the planetary field, and particular heart frequencies and orientation that's at the center of that. And then in the newness, like just in the continuing newness, it's both ancient and new, right, simultaneously. I find it, well, it's always difficult to give language, right? It's always limited. So the language is it's so new. It's just and it's so alive as well, because as soon as we name something, we kind of solidify and we go, oh yeah, and we get a concept and we get a word, and then that can bring in some restriction. And so much of our language is imbued with the past, with past paradigms and with old belief systems. And I was joking with somebody the other day that often I'll go to like language because it is free from these structures or silence, right? A lot of it's in the silence. But I know we're here to have a conversation, so I'm inviting the language through that can convey some of what's in the field, and I know it's in the field itself will convey, and that's what I want to bring in as well.
I know that you speak of yourself as a embodied awakening guide, and I found a beautiful little quote on your website. It was like a testimonial that said, "Helen is a guide from the heart of oneness, sent to remind us of the way home." And this just really resonated. I felt that was so beautiful, because we're all in this kind of remembering process at the moment. And like you spoke to earlier, that letting go of all those paradigms, that old conditioning, programming.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean, like the theme of coming home and letting go have been at my core of my journey for the whole time. And I've been on this path consciously for 3 decades. The quote that you saw actually was just literally this week, in response to an experience in a group meditation that I held. And the group meditation was very much in the absolute kind of current wave of energies. So it's interesting, but these themes of homecoming are eternal, right? So my book is called Coming Home. The blog that I've written since 2012 is Coming Home. So these are like, this is a place of ancient longing that we all know. So we're simultaneously holding these really ancient truths, and we are in newness. We're in evolutionary waves that are unique. And this is part of spiritual maturity is holding paradoxes simultaneously. The truth of reality is what seeming paradoxes coexisting side by side. So there's like an ancient future aspect to reality and to what's here, and certainly to what I bring. And in my journey over the years in this lifetime, there's been a journey of reclaiming and remembering many, many lineages, sometimes through doing trainings and teachings and pilgrimages and a lot of traveling around the planet, connecting with land, sometimes all through communion energetically. And then, you know, in the reclaiming, there's an invitation to be in this particular incarnation at this moment in partnership with conscious human consciousness, collective consciousness, to create something new. And I've known that about my path for a long time. And it's been really, really amazing actually to kind of watch the waves. And I wrote about this in my last blog about a spiraling that I've been seeing very, very clearly literally since the beginning of this year. To 2014-15, and I knew it wasn't just personal. There's so many synchronicities, and even when I was over in the UK just now, there was people that I hadn't connected with in all of that time coming back into the field, and we're all in different places. The spiraling isn't just personal, and I've spoken with people that have also been witnessing this, and it's a spiral from my perception of collecting some more levels and rising. So it's not a spiraling down, it's not just a repeating, it's not a looping, it's a collecting and an evolution. And what I've been seeing, and it's actually very humbling and moving, is that back in that time frame, a number of us of Soul Family were calling together gatherings, calling together global meditations, and talking with the language of what is now possible here that wasn't possible then. And I didn't know that it wasn't possible then. Discovered it through practice, through things not, persisting. And then in the turn of the spiral this year, personally, I was being called out and up into the world, then calling people together in very new ways, which I'd love to speak about later on. And I'm realizing that it is possible now. And then some people like Rory, who I know you just were speaking to, and others, were bringing in information about the mechanics, if you like, of the shifts in the ley lines. I've always been very connected with the grids and with the planetary points, mainly more intuitive level and a sensing level, and being dispatched here, there, and everywhere to exchange. But some people have been bringing in some of the specifics about the shifts in the lines that have actually fundamentally changed what's possible, the flow of energy, and how we can communicate, how we are communicating and communing with each other. And this is why many of us are experiencing a real up-leveling in synchronicity and in soul connections. And at Knowlton, where I was for Equinox, I mean, I could tell you stories for the whole hour about the synchronicities in the last few weeks have been so beautiful, like so beautiful on all fronts. But I was called to be at Knowlton on the 19th as part of my anchoring. There was not anything happening there. And then at the same time as I anchored, they decided to go ahead and have the meditation. So we came together and I contributed to meditation there. And what I witnessed, that was the last gathering in the 2 weeks that I was over in the UK. What I witnessed was many of the people that I spoke to, even in the day before or that day, they were being dispatched to different points to do energy work or grid work, or sometimes just not even knowing, just I've got to go to this place. And literally I'm doing this because I'm seeing all of these weavings and toroidal fields. And we're the more that we trust it, that we listen and trust, then we come back together, and there was 140 of us there that day. We bring it into the field, we coalesce, we come into a new coherence, and then we're at the next level. So it really is like a cosmic dance. It is a cosmic dance, and our operating system is taking major upgrades.
It's a cosmic dance, and the synchronicities are like the affirmation of that, in a way, that we're we're at the right place at the right time. That's, we were talking about that with Rory Duff, he was on last, and really the trust of allowing that unfolding and allowing those synchronicities to drop in.
Yeah, there's a number of factors. Trust, and I mean, again, we could talk a lot about trust and surrender. That's a whole topic in itself, because it's who is trusting what, and are they even separate? I also think there's an important piece of the groundedness. Like, it's like as we grow in our own beings and our own remembrance, there's a call to span more breadth of our being, and continually to ground it through our human, right? So as a human, we love to, or our mind and our ego loves to grab onto ideas and solidify. And even in this, particularly in the spiritual paradigms, we can explore certain realms, certain frequency realms, and we can kind of get a bit comfortable there, or we identify with it. And then life, the cosmos, all that is, sooner or later will give us an invitation, shall we put it, or a nudge to open and to shift. So there's listening to guidance is so essential. I mean, I've been living my life founded on that for at least 15 years. Everywhere, like, I've moved from Scotland to the US, and everywhere I've gone, and all the big decisions, it always has to be in alignment. All the events I do, everything there has to come from a foundation of a deeper calling and a deeper wisdom. And I can override that, but it tends to be clunky and uncomfortable, to say the least. And at the same time, there's a groundedness, because other aspects come in and they'll say, go here, do this, do that, give up everything. And I've experienced this. Many of us are experiencing this in many, many ways. And as humans, we still have certain needs. And so we operate in a human body as a consciousness field and as part of greater consciousness fields. And you mentioned the phrase embodied awakening. It's one that I just kind of pulled together a few years ago as some kind of way to kind of try and bridge some of this. I'd gone through a lot of expansion over many years, and very comfortable working with very high energies, very broad realms. And then my own wise self called me back and down and in to more inner work and more groundedness and more embodiment. So I focused a lot on embodiment, yoga training, and movement, and somatics, and relational fields. And then my wise self called me more back into the multidimensionality. So I'm just pointing to the importance of honoring all of what's available to us, where we are at right now. And we really are all unique and at unique places. And one of the things I'm really excited about over the last 4 years is the surge of sovereignty, let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
And it's beautiful to see each of us discerning and honing more and more our authentic path. And then what I'm seeing now, Sarah, is that relationally. So if this is a good moment, I want to say a little bit about what I'm seeing in some of what's being called in this journey that I was on. It wasn't just that my soul was being called to certain places to do energy work. It was fundamentally a calling out to however many people felt a resonance to come together, and to come together in a field of consciousness that isn't limited by a definition or limited by an agenda, that we're going to do X, Y, and Z activities, and at the end you will come out with da 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 da. So much of what's out there has been distorted into this box,
It's
right?
part of the old paradigm, isn't it? It's, you know, it's
Completely.
all been structured, it's all been linear.
Yeah.
And so to step into that place of not knowing and allowing and seeing what unfolds,
Yeah.
it's really beautiful, because it's the place where we can really start to embrace that new possibility. But it also
Yeah.
takes a bit of courage
It takes
sometimes.
tremendous courage, and to do it together. I mean, that's how I've endeavored to live my life for a long time, and to bring it to my group spaces. There's a whole new level of, you know, like what the calling in this, the homecoming journey was. I didn't define it. It was a frequency field, and people came that just felt a calling, and there was no agenda. And as a leader, as a facilitator, yeah, that takes tremendous courage. And we can witness the pulls to, like, to fill it with something that we know, both in ourselves and in the group field. And as we hold each other, because we hold the field,
That's the
right?
thing, and that's what I was feeling into when you were speaking, because there's subtle power plays otherwise, isn't there? That's that, like, you know, therapist, you know, person receiving the healing, and it's kind of like, if we can completely let that go as
Yeah,
well, and stand and hold each other
yeah,
in a
yeah,
circle,
yeah. And
it's
that's
really
what
honoring.
happened. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what happened. And honestly, Sarah, it was so much joy. And I know it wasn't just me, because others, yeah, like I experienced when we were at Roslyn in particular at the beginning, that was the first gathering. There was a moment where we were in the chapel, and again, there was no instructions, there was no like, we're going to do blah blah blah, but there was and it's very important, there's a holding, a very very intentional holding of the highest vibrational field, and that's really
yeah,
important. Otherwise it's just
yeah.
people hanging out, which is fine. And so we were in there, and just organically, whoever was called, we're just positioning yourself and maybe quietly sounding and working and so on. And there was a moment where I felt the absolute power and profundity of the coherence, and I felt the unique pinpoints and elements of each essence, not the
Beautiful,
personality, not what Andy was
beautiful.
doing or saying, but the essence, in a way that I'd never felt before. And others felt it too. And it was just, to me, it was a very authentic joy of what we actually are, because we are one consciousness expressing like notes in an endless
Beautiful.
song. And when we come together, we don't know how it's going to harmonize or weave. um we hold that field, and something new emerges.
It's beautiful. It's very touching,
Yeah.
you know, listening to, you know, you're talking about that field. It's very moving. It feels very
Mm,
tangible.
mm.
Um,
Well, thank you for the opportunity, see, to try and give words to it, because, see, like I said at the beginning, so many of the words are kind of old paradigm as well. And a lot of this is in the silence, and a lot of how I've explored it in my online community and groups has been, well, sometimes in the silence, but there is again a whole other level about being in the physical that I know there is such a thirst for in so many people. And yes, we have online communities, and it's wonderful. And there's still a whole other realm that isn't present. And just the simple action of hugging somebody, like I met with some soul family in Glastonbury, and I don't even know, we must have spent maybe half an hour just our bodies together, vibrating in silence, in the absolute power of that, not saying a word. There was nothing to be said. The point being that the physical is really important, and the online is a complement, but it has its limitations. And I'm certainly called to more of this. And again, having the courage to create new paradigms where it isn't the expert or the leader or any of that stuff,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Each one of us standing in our frequency authority, standing in our spiritual authenticity,
And
coming
absolutely. And
together.
as you're speaking, you know, what I'm really feeling is that frequency of love. You know, when you was talking about the just holding for half an hour, it's a welcoming in at such a deep level that it's allowing each person to feel safe to shine their essence,
Yeah,
which is, you know, because that has been, because of the world that we're living in, because that has been suppressed, it takes courage to and holding really unconditional love to
yeah.
kind of activate that. And it feels like you're really creating a magical opportunity for that, Helen.
Oh, that's a beautiful reflection. Thank you. And also what I'm taking from that is I've always been very connected with divine feminine energies and different lineages, and the path of the heart is my organic, natural expression. And then of course, there's always a balancing with our masculine aspects and how they express. So this is where the focus comes in. This is where the intentionality comes in, and also the authority, and also the outward movement to actually call people together in an active way. Because some of the shadow of what can happen in the spiritual paradigm as well, and some schools and some kind of paths, is to just sit in awareness, which is profound and essential, don't get me wrong, and it's part of my daily life. And it's we're here to embody awareness and live from it. And this is the real mastery and the real discernment of how we return home. We come to infinite awareness, which of course is infinite and unending discovery and realization. And then from here, we take action, we
Yeah.
focus,
And
we come together.
contribution. Yeah.
And also with physical gatherings, there's an intimate relationship with the mother, with the land, and all that she carries in the land, in the grids, in the energetics, in the structures, in the crystals. And so it's a partnering, and she is in the circle. And I just want to quickly share this story because it was so beautiful. At the end at Roslyn, we'd gone from the chapel, and some of us that felt called to go to this ancient yew grove went there. And then again, just intuitively and organically sounding or sharing or doing what was called. And then at the end, we came into circle, and we were sharing and closing down. And then somebody expressed that she works often there, and she knew the name of the tree, and she was being asked to speak on behalf of the tree. And what she said was so beautiful. She said the tree was saying that often humans come and they'll gather in circle, and they'll gather in circle beside the tree, or they'll gather around the tree. The tree wanted to be part of the circle. So two people just took a step, and almost as if they were taking hands with the tree, and the whole energy just went, ah. And it was perfect. It was such a subtle thing, because we were including these tree beings, but it was a different relational paradigm, if you like. And I'm seeing that between individuals and the group field, and I'm seeing it between group fields and collective consciousness, and I'm seeing it between collective planetary consciousness and, let's say, cosmic consciousness. There's shifts in the relational fields. They are. I feel it's connected, like we're talking about the synchronicities earlier. It's connected to how we commune. There are different possibilities available, and it's happening, from the ground, literally from the ground up, and from the personal level, rippling all the way out. And my calling and my focus is the absolute widest level, and to bring that all the way right down into how we're actually showing up and living our lives.
I have to be really honest, you've really inspired me, because I ran a group, it was an online group for about a year, called Creating New Earth. And I got told by Spirit that there was no agenda, that we just had, there was nothing for me to teach. It was to hold a space to allow the unfolding. but it was online. And what you're saying about connecting with Great Mother is really resonating in the land and the community. And you've inspired me to take that leap, which feels a little bit scary. And I think that's what Rory's doing as well, is, you know, he's kind of encouraging people just to get together. And it doesn't even need to be on a sacred site. You know, it's that mere act of, because he spoke about how each of us notices different aspects, you know, so we're all a part of that field so intimately, you know, in terms of what's being created. Every single person is going to create that symphony or tapestry or
and that's why we don't know what's possible, because until whoever's there. And that's been the way that I've engaged with my group meditations and spaces for a long time. And there are shifts, because we all carry programming around giving our power away, or just not really being in our sovereignty. And that can be really, really subtle. And if we are in a role of a leader or a facilitator, part of, well, the responsibility that I carry is to not do that, is to create new ways. And even using the word leader is something that I've resisted, because I haven't done it in traditional ways. You know, I haven't been successful out in the world of business and but that's the whole point. It's new forms of leadership that are fundamentally connected with how the feminine and the divine feminine is rising, and the relationship, the orientation between feminine and masculine is shifting and healing. So we're bringing in these heart-based qualities, these intuitive qualities, along with leadership. And absolutely, it doesn't need to be a sacred site. That's also part of the programming that's up for letting go of, is that everything is sacred. Everything is sacred. You know, making a cup of tea, getting together. I got together with a friend in a coffee shop yesterday, and our time together is always incredible. We exchange at all the levels, and it is never just about our personalities. You know, we love to get together, but there's so much that actually occurs, and being open to this is the real richness. And being brave enough and being vulnerable enough, because actually none of it is about the ego or about the personality. And it's really taken that to another level of getting out of the way, and showing up,
and just showing up. And that's, in a way, that's all we have to do, isn't it? Just show up. I remember the first podcast that I did, I was really out of my comfort zone, and I just thought, I'll just show up. You know, just,
well, I'm so glad that you did, and you are. And it really is all of us. And at the beginning of this year, before I'd heard or paid any attention to anything around astrology or what anybody was saying about the energy, my inner knowing was just like, oh, game time. This is it this year. This is show up time. And I was sharing that with some of my community, and it's all of us showing up again. It wasn't just personal. It wasn't just for Helen. It's like, if you have any recognition anywhere in your system that you're here for this awakening adventure, show up in the way that's right for you. It doesn't matter what is happening in your life. And I know many that are stripped back and really, really challenged. Show up in the way that you are called to. And even at Knowlton, it was so beautiful, because they had such a beautiful space of allowing, in between each person that led a piece or meditation, of just inviting anybody to share anything that they were called to. And so a couple of people got up and shared something, or light language or a message. And then some people came to me at the end and shared messages that they got, but they were too embarrassed to, do in the group. But we don't know. We just have pieces. We can't, nobody has the whole picture. We just have our strand, and our responsibility is to live that strand and share it.
And, one of the things you said about letting go of attachments and identification, what's coming to my mind is, when I was running this New Earth, Creating New Earth group, I had people in the group that weren't healers or therapists in any way. And after a few times of coming, they were contributing the most powerful, amazing stuff, because they were coming from their
It's
authenticity.
pure, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. In many ways, you know, when I meet somebody that hasn't come through like the spiritual school and programming, I celebrate with them, because it's just more to undo. And there's so much support available to us now energetically that people are like rocket ships, you know, in terms of just awakening conscious. We can hold that space and that intention and just invite it. And so, yeah, to just be in contact with their own purity is less to undo. And that's available in all of us. It's always available in all of us. And I feel that's also at the heart of what's being invited. And, you know, I'm conscious that everything that we're speaking about here exists in a movie, you know, well, many movies actually, of like what's playing out on the planet, and a lot of that can look very, very different, and there's a lot of really, really hard stuff going on. And again, the mastery is holding all of it without believing any of it, without getting distracted, but also not disconnecting from our humanity or our compassion. And that will look different for each one of us, about how much we're pulled to engage in a certain scenario, you know, in the wars or the challenges that are going on. So again, holding our humanity and our interconnectedness as a being with the highest level of what we know. And this is where the courage really comes in, because it's can be incredibly hard. And as our hearts open, we feel more and more and more. And personally, I have felt more in the past year or so than in my whole life. And I've gone through a lot of big initiations. And I know again that I'm not alone. And it's
almost like indefinable, I find now. It's not, it's almost like I'll feel like a vulnerability or a rawness around my heart, and I can't put a finger on it. I don't know if that's been your experience, but it's
there's
like, what,
there's no narrative.
There's no, it doesn't kind of make any sense, as it were.
It's in a way, well, there's also more purity coming in, because there's less narrative for some of us. I know we're generalizing all over the place here, but to speak from myself, which is all I can speak from, there's less and less narrative and less story. And I've witnessed this many times. As that occurs, there's just movement of energy, and that energy can be blissful, that energy can be excruciating. The intensity of it is like nothing else I've ever known, and it takes all of our resources to hold ourselves, and it takes each other, because nobody is isolated, nobody is in a bubble. So you know, the courage to choose to stay with it all, to stay awake, to stay present, is immense. And the people that resonate with what I bring are people that are tremendously brave and living their life the best that they can and the way that they know how, but living with the immensity of what it is to live with a brave heart, with an open heart. Beautiful. Exciting. It's exciting times.
It's incredible times. I know that we talked about doing a bit of a meditation. Before we do that, there's sort of two things that are popping into my head. One is about the year of the dragon, because I know you said it's all happening this year, and any kind of energetic relevance there and unfolding relating to that. And the other was like a little bit more of an understanding of the multidimensionality of your work, and how you're kind of working through those different levels, but in a very embodied way.
That, I mean, that last one in particular is a huge one, so I could talk for an hour about
Sorry,
that.
That's okay. A minute before the meditation. We have to do another one.
You want to read my book? Like, you know, it's like.
So you've got your book. It's Homecoming, isn't it?
It's actually coming home. It's funny because it's Coming Home's been the title, and then this calling that came in because it was like, how do I even language this? Like this calling, like how do we? And homecoming was the phrase, which was kind of a bit of an inside joke, because it wasn't about Helen coming back to Scotland or Britain. It was really about this purity and this origin field. So on the year of the dragon, I'm astrology dyslexic, is the phrase that I use now. Like, so I can receive the astrology, and I can really receive it, but I don't retain the information. But the energetics of the dragon, oh my goodness, are so alive. And then what was happening again like over the last month or so was all of these insights coming in and illuminations about the dragon lines and how the dragon lines are moving and shifting and coming online. And then so all of the places that I'd already been told to go to are actually all connected in with the dragon lines as well. So there's multiple levels of that, which I'm not the best person to go into it. The piece about multidimensionality, what can I say about this? I think I would echo some of what I touched on earlier, Sarah, which is, I think the core theme for me is authenticity. And by authenticity, I mean full spectrum authenticity. So often we think of authenticity in terms of maybe emotional authenticity. For me, my authenticity is to include a very, very broad range of frequency. That's how I'm wired. Not everybody's wired that way.
I'm pleased you made that distinction, because I think it's an important one, the emotional authenticity, and how because it's something I can really relate to it, but it's something I hadn't sort of conceptualized before.
Yeah. Well, because I'm, again, I'm playing with like, how do I language what it is that I convey, and authenticity came in as a piece, but it's like full spectrum authenticity. And I realize in my own life, as I mentioned, like I awakened to so much of my multidimensionality, and I'll say a bit more about that. And then more embodiment, more groundedness. And then there's a continuing weaving of all of it through the human. And for me to be in authenticity, it has to include a very broad range.
Yes.
So that's just personal. Not everybody's like that. Some of us are very galactic. Some of us are very elemental. Some of us are very human with just like pinpoints of things. So, and we are all everything. But it's what kind of wirings our soul chose to kind of bring in this lifetime.
It's interesting when you're speaking. What's coming up is part of that coming home is a lot of us that will be listening to this are perhaps from more comfortable in other realms, kind of perhaps being this journey on earth has perhaps been a difficult one, at least in the beginning. But part of the awakening, part of the journey into new earth is that embodied process. So how can we reclaim all of those different aspects and bring them into the here now?
Yeah, I mean, this is my life's work. This is right at the heart of my purpose. And we all have resistance to being here to various degrees. And I had huge resistance. And I've gone through at least 3 death episodes in the last 3 years. I mean, I'm talking like with the possibility of physical death, to really choose to be here with everything that I had access to. That was what was called for, with everything that I had access to really say yes. And I could have said no, and that's okay. So yeah, I would suggest, to any of us that find yourself hanging out in the spiritual realms, to be brave enough to be honest, to be brave enough to look at our humanity, because we're not here for that. That's always available. This is it. This is the gold, to be in a human body. This is the uniqueness. This is like my beloved teacher used to say, you've won the lotto when you have a human body. So even through our kicking, screaming resistance, that can all be here, but to turn to our humanness. And in turning to our humanness and embracing it more and more fully with the earth, but not to forget that we are so much more than this. We are fully human, but we are not only human. And again, this is a dance, and it will look different for all of us. Some of us will have to pay more attention to different areas. Some of us will need more attention with grounding. A
Yeah.
lot of us aren't grounded, right? A lot of us, we have all these incredible gifts and we are just not grounded. And I've lived that, I've experienced it. And, you know, it's a clarifying for me of my values is to keep embodying more of our fullness. And it doesn't mean we don't get a prize for going bigger, bigger, bigger. Like the goal is authenticity. It's to find our unique essence and flavor and how it wants to express and play. And that might be just like right here, you know, that's the journey. And you know, what's out there in the constructed reality isn't going to tell us that. No teacher's going to tell us that. Our own, excuse me, our own heart and soul is going to tell us this.
And the word play that you used is a big key there, isn't it? It's, you know,
yeah, like reclaiming the joy. That was such a thread in these weeks as well. And you know, I keep mentioning because they were a lived experiment. They were a direct experiment of like, I have no idea what's going to happen here. And we all came with that and discovering and exploring. And there was so much joy. Beautiful. And there was so much joy, not only in the kind of informal gatherings, but times where we were focused, as also in the times where we went and had coffee or lunch or whatever, or a walk.
It's all part.
It's all of it. I mean, this is full spectrum authenticity. You know, a walk on the beach, or you know, so, and still staying open to the fullness of what we are. So it's incredible dance, an incredible adventure.
So would you like to guide us into a more experiential
I would love to. That's where I really hang out. This is my preferred place to be. Oh, okay. So I invite us to drop in to the world of awareness that exists in our being, to make contact, first of all, with the breath. Make contact with the breath that is occurring in your body in this moment. This profound connection with life itself. So becoming aware of the in-breath and the out-breath that returns again and again and is continually with us until our soul leaves this body. Breathing and breathed. And then every word is just a pointer. So always listen. Always stay in the listening of your own truth. It feels resonant. Expand your awareness to include this connected group field. So everyone that's listening or watching that has or will becomes part of this intelligent, responsive, coherent field. And the coherence is important. We are, in effect, surrendering to the highest expression and intelligence of this field, and surrendering to it not as something outside of ourselves, because we are this. We're actually shifting into another level of our own consciousness in this group field. And this group field itself has a breath and a life and a heart. And let's call forward its essential purity, its spirit. And then already I can feel around us many realms of beings coming close. So as we shift to another level of collective consciousness, we're each bringing in our teams, our other aspects, our higher aspects, our other dimensional expressions, angelic realms, teachers and guides. And we're all circling together. And this is so, their fundamental nature is intimately as an expression of one consciousness. We can use different words, source. I'm also using a phrase which I'll call the origin field, pointing to the purity of original essence. This is alive in every soul spark, through all levels of collective awareness, to infinite, unbounded, limitless awareness. Breathing continues here. Breathing and breathed. All that is existing and expressing through multiple planes, through the very cells, this body, through its sounds and words and movements, through its emanations, through its touch, through its walking upon the earth. Just holding a gentle awareness of the movement of the lungs, the weight of the sit bones, we're not leaving behind anything of this body. Consciousness has a home, an entry point, just for the briefest moment through this body, through the gift of this body, through interrelationship in our communities, in our family groups, our workplace, our lives. Continuing to soften into the thisness, the openness of here. There may be many, many strands movement or expression or none. Softening and relaxing the need, or the belief in the need for anything specific to occur, including the type of experience. Me inda chimakota akinta e inchi echotarkaka a nda e me echota e ne yumba kakta echa e ka e ndalama e inka a kiaka cha ma haritua e ka. Feel your feet kissing this earth. She embraces us as one. And there's a wave of golden blessing just surging in gratitude for our presence, our bravery, to remember while alive. Not waiting for the doorway of death to open to the infinite. Yet not discarding this body and this human experience to fly away. Here we are, brave, open-hearted, one and one. And then I invite us to take 2 or 3 slow, deliberate breaths. Feeling and intending that each breath is an effortless integration through multiple layers of our system, of our body being. And becoming more aware of the soles of the feet on the floor or the back of the body if you happen to be lying down. And aware of the solidity and the support. Aware of the structure of your spine. Body at ease, open and grateful. Thank you for being here. Much love.
So much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Sarah. It's just such a joy.
It's been such a joy to connect with you. And
thank you, you too.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share before we finish up today?
Well, actually, just encouragement is coming in. You know, we talked about earlier about, well, we've talked about courage and being brave-hearted, and we've talked about how we've been taken to the edge in many ways energetically on a daily basis. And I'm just being asked to share a message of encouragement. This is part of the group field as well, is that when one of us is on the floor, really like feeling that this is it, someone else is here and they can help to hold space. And the more of us that are awakening, there's more people on board, there's more opportunities for us to support each other as peers, as allies. So I offer that encouragement from the usness, from the we-ness of the field. It has its own intelligence, and we like to know that we'll be supported. And we have to ask as well. We have to be conscious of our connection. And part of that is continuing to heal ourselves from the victim paradigms, which that's been happening so much. So yeah, so the piece about encouragement is really connected in again to the wider field. Knowing it can support us, calling on it, whether or not that manifests as a physical being or money or whatever it might be in the physical, but calling on the field to support us at the times where we're feeling challenged. And also knowing our part in the field of supporting others when we're feeling resilient and balanced.
We definitely can't do this by ourselves.
We're not
meant
here.
to.
No. I mean, and this is what, again, one of the paradoxes. It's a unique path that we each walk in our soul, how we come in and how we go out and how we walk. And we're utterly interconnected. And that's what we're here for. We're here for the relational. We literally die without each other.
Yes.
Our bodies cannot survive without each other. So that's a powerful testimony to our nature in human form. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been so beautiful chatting with you. I'm going to put all your details below, your website and everything. So do look up Helen Quail and do hit the subscribe button for more New Earth podcasts. Many blessings, everyone.